It's time for another Dice Tower review with the Chief, Bart Brunsheen.
Hi, it's the Chief from the Dice Tower, and I am very excited to bring a review on Leviathan. It's from Catalyst Games Lab, and the designer is Randall Bills. And first of all, let me tell you, it's a very rich alternate history steampunk world. It's a war-type game. It's very close to naval warfare. It's just in the air. The whole idea is that there's like an electrical fluid that makes them lighter than air, and it's typical capital ships, bow, stern, port, starboard, heavy guns, just dueling it out in the air. Before we go in and take a closer look, let me just show you some of the stuff here. It comes with a really nice lieutenant's manual, which is a quick start guide. You can then move into a commander's manual, which has got a lot more meat in it. Later on, you can get a captain's manual that comes with even more rules. It just seems like it's infinitely expandable. Comes with two little novellas. These miniatures, which I'll zoom in on, which are incredible, and I can't keep my 5-year-old from wanting to play with them. And they're just they're not super fragile, but I know he'll tear them up, so I won't let him touch them. These great dry erase boards where all the action kind of takes place, and tons of dice, and super production values, everything from box inserts, how everything's stored, protected, to the books and the background history and the quick start guide and the manuals. I'm just telling you, let's go in and take a closer look. I'll keep going. All right, now if that cover art just doesn't tell you everything you ever needed to know, then I don't know what to say. That is darn near suitable for framing. But tell me that isn't sharp. Panning down, we're going to take a look at these little minis. Now you'll notice the one on the left, the big fella, the battleship, one of the big Leviathans, I've got him on an elevation stand. The rules in this game don't cover elevation, but you do get the stands that allow you to use it when you've got the rules for it. So I believe the rules for elevation might be available in the Captain's expansion. So as I've covered, you start with the Lieutenant's Manual, which is a quick start guide, then you got the Commander's Rules, which are quite extensive. I'm going to give you a couple angles of these. I'll kind of give you a top-down later, but just check those out. You got your 3 different ships. I think it's a battleship, a cruiser, and a destroyer. The whole universe here is kind of set in the early 1900s, like 1910. So you can get a kind of feel for it with, of course, that steampunk thing going on. So, pan up to the big boy. You've got this lovely player aid board. Covers everything from your turn order to the 3 different types of ships that come in the game and how they'll move. They'll pivot at different locations based on their ship, which shows you there, and then how all their guns work. Now the Type 4, the largest ship, has a little bit of stuff going on here. So in the starter rules, they just start you off with the kind of simple bow, stern, and then you've got your port and your starboard sides there. But it's all actually very self-explanatory. It goes into some more chart things on the back. There is some lovely art and commentary on each of the ships, giving you specifics and tonnage and the armament and a little bit of history and even their little like logo, or I know I'm blowing that. I wasn't in the Navy, I was in the Army. Their unit insignia. And you've got that for each one of the ships. The board, double-sided. I've got the kind of cool little, I don't know, coastline with the ocean kind of spooling out. Just really pretty design, and gives you a nice kind of upper shot on these minis real quick. These turrets literally move, and the detail on them is just really good. So not something you would expect, or at least I wouldn't expect at this price point. When I received the box, the heft of it surprised me, and I opened it, and everything that was inside and how well it was packed and organized just continued to surprise me. Let's go down to these player boards. See if I can lift this up so we don't get any glare on it. This is really where all your action is going to take place. And I'm not going to go in and explain in detail all these little areas, but I can kind of go into the gist of it with you. Clearly you have your port and your starboard side and your bow and your stern, and you have what's called slots, and you have 6 slots on each little section here, and then you'll have 6 up top and 6 here. And the slots control everything from what type of gun is available in this angle, whether or not it's easier to hit the ship if it's moving or if it's not moving. And the numbers here coincide with the kind of amount of armor that's in place in the location, which all has to do with the die roll. You also got the main things that title the ship, its total structural integrity, the ship type, which will tell you, how fast it's going to move, or different movement rules. You've got your starting MPs, which is your movement point allowance. And then, of course, your inner hexes before your turn. The bigger ships have to move farther forward before they can start to turn. Just kind of getting in on this, you can see your engines on the stern here. And you can see that if the engines are taken out, like slot 2, you got an engine with MP of 1. If that's taken out, obviously you're going to lose one of your movement points over here. And the cool thing is you just use dry erase on this. Everything's simultaneous action. So if I lose a slot, let's just say slot 2, I just circle it and I move normally throughout the turn, take whatever actions I need to take. But at the end of that turn, I will then end up Xing out slot number 2, and I'll be missing an engine. Let me zoom right back out a little bit and show you, just kind of simulate how some of the fighting will go with the dice. I'm not going to get into a lot of detail. There's tons of detail you can go into it, but I'll cover the gist of it. Let's say I'm firing with my 6-inch gun from my port side, and I'm in close range. I'm going to get to use a yellow die instead of a blue die. The die are set up so that you don't have to look at charts. If you're closer, these dice are going to allow for greater hit points for me to do damage to the other ship. There's also an area on here that says I have some crew, so I get to add a green die to my hand as well. I will then look at my opposing target, the guy I'm shooting at, and see if he's moving or not. And depending on what his card says, I might get to add, let's just say he has a black die, and I might get to add that. And then I'm going to roll a slot die with it. So I would roll all of these dice. I would total up the value that ends up being on the dice that I've rolled. So here I would have 19, and then this would tell me I'm in slot 2 of whatever the target area is that I'm shooting at. So just using the same card, let's say this was the area that was being fired at. Slot 2 would be here, it would be 14, and that would have been a hit, and I would have lost that little area. Now there are some things with armor that come into effect. They'll add hit points to that area. So if your armor's intact, you get a little bit more protection and those things. So there's some details that I'm glossing over, but it's a very nice system they use that instead of you looking up a bunch of charts, you just got to figure out, well, which die am I rolling on this based on the range, based on the target that I'm shooting at, and then you add in the slot die, and it tells you what slot you're hitting on the side of the ship. As you've seen, the detail here is really astounding. Everything from the depth of the history that you can read, everything from the fiction to the actual universe you're in, the quality of all the cards, the miniatures, the system used to target and roll dice so you're not having to refer to charts all the time. Just the attention to detail is probably the thing I enjoyed most. Double-sided board, quality materials, just everything about it. It is a war game at heart, so if you don't like war games, you probably won't like this. It comes very close to me. When I was young, I used to play wooden ships and iron men. Clearly that's sailing vessels. You had to deal with the wind and tacking and all that kind of stuff. But it has that very same feel in terms of, feel the fire for starboard and port, bow, stern. You don't want to get your T crossed, which is another fleet coming across, so only your bow guns can fire and their full port or starboard guns can bear on you. So, war game, and really a lot of cool toys. I love these ships, I'm telling you. The little turrets move. I don't know. That's enough. I like it. It's pricey. I believe this is $80 and this is kind of a starter kit. And you can it looks like you'll be able to go on and on and on from here. You can add more ships. You can add more ship cards that'll, give you slightly different variations on the types of ships you have. Different races, or not races, sorry, I went sci-fi. Japanese, German, United States. So if you love this, there's plenty to come and plenty that's already here. See you guys, it's the Chief.
Thanks for watching our review today. For more information about board games, as well as the #1 board game audio podcast, check out Dicetower.com for reviews, interviews, and more. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.